my stories are ones based in fact. And I don't know if many of you have heard it or not, but probably my most famous story is the one about Floyd the pig. Who here has heard Floyd the pig?
I don't remember it.
Yeah. It's from about my very first event.
Oh,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to an event a while back over in Ethelmark. I hadn't been there for a while, back in my old stomping grounds. And I was listening to the bards perform. It was a lot of fun. And that's when I realized that the story that these two were telling was my story. Floyd the pig. Except it wasn't Floyd the pig to them. It was Fred the pig. And I'm listening to them tell it. And they're telling it. And they're standing up and being very effusive. And I realize that they're really telling it very, very badly. And I'm sitting there in horror listening. And I realize that right then I'm being that guy in the audience. And they finish up the story. And they get a small round of applause. And then they start breaking down. And I go up to them to congratulate them on a nice performance. And one of them says, yeah, a friend of mine wrote that story. I'm like, oh, who was that? Oh, her name was Mary. Mary whom? Mary of Osborne. Oh, that's interesting. You mean my assistant cook at that event? They're like, who are you? I'm like, I'm Llewellyn. Oh, he's fictional. I most certainly am not. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mary made him up, and she's been telling stories about him for years.
Oh, no.
I'm like, oh, she has she? Like what? Oh, how he was 7 feet tall and could pull a feast out of a paper bag. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Joking, obviously. They're like, Mary! And they call her in. She's like, Lou, I didn't know you were here. They're like, this is Llewellyn? I thought he didn't exist. Well, of course he exists. What did you think? Do you think I was a liar? They're like, yeah. I'm like, and she's looking at them, and they're looking at her, and I'm like, oh, by the way, guys, the pig's name was Floyd. Like, come on, how do you know that? Because I cooked the pig! It's my story! They're like, yeah, you stuffed the pig with fireworks and made it explode. Like, it wasn't fireworks, it was steam. And yes, it popped. They're like, okay. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Mary's like, he's telling the truth. Like, and they both looked at me and went, so you actually cooked a pig in Ethelmark? Like, I was the first one to cook a pig in Ethelmark. They're like, yeah, right. And they walked off. You know what, though? How I get my revenge? I tell this story.